Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The tension in Miami is thick enough to cut with a knife, and you can almost feel it radiating through the walls of the Dolphins facility. Head coach Mike McDaniel, once hailed as the brainy savior destined to bring modern football and offensive genius to South Beach, now stands at the center of a storm that's growing darker by the week. The Miami Dolphins, sitting at 1-5, have become a story of frustration, missed opportunities, and the kind of heartbreak that seems to haunt this franchise like a stubborn ghost. And after every gut-wrenching defeat, there's one scene that's becoming a bit of a ritual: McDaniel's post-game chat with team owner Stephen Ross. It's almost comical at this point. The media knows the question is coming, McDaniel knows it's coming, and yet every Monday, the dance begins again. The question isn't just about what was said, it's about what it means. Is Ross losing patience? Is McDaniel's seat heating up? Or is this just the painful middle act of a long-term plan that no one seems to understand anymore? After the Dolphins' latest heartbreak, a 29-27 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, McDaniel faced the same line of questioning. The tone was familiar, respectful, but probing, as reporters tried to read between the lines of every word that left his mouth. After the game, the main thing is that he's experiencing the loss like all of us, McDaniel said, his voice steady but weary. You could tell this wasn't his first time saying something like that. It's the fourth loss this season that we've had that. In the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, we had a different outcome available to us. And then, the focus is on what we need to do as a team to correct this. That phrase, focus on what we need to do, might sound like standard coach speak, but there's an undertone there, a sense that McDaniel knows the window for correction is closing fast. When your record is 1-5, the room for patience starts shrinking. Fans stop talking about adjustments and start talking about replacements. The irony is that McDaniel's post-game conversation with Ross wouldn't even be a story if the Dolphins weren't collapsing week after week. But here we are. Every question about those conversations is really a question about job security, and everyone in Miami knows it. The shadow looming over McDaniel got a little longer this week when the Tennessee Titans fired their own head coach, Brian Callahan, after just 6 games, and with the same 1-5 record as Miami. That move sent shockwaves through the league, and you can bet Ross noticed. When one struggling owner makes a bold move, others start to feel the pressure to do the same. And right now, Ross is feeling that pressure from every direction, from a restless fan base, from local media, and from the empty seats at Hard Rock Stadium that used to be filled with optimism. The thing is, Stephen Ross has been here before. He's seen false dawns and broken promises. He's watched rebuilds start with grand speeches and end in mediocrity. When he hired McDaniel in 2022, it felt different, fresh, bold, the perfect marriage of modern analytics and locker room chemistry. And for a while, it worked. The Dolphins were fun again. The offense was electric. TUA Tagovailoa was slinging the ball like he was back at Alabama, and Tyreek Hill looked unstoppable. But somewhere between the highlight reels and the losses that pile up in December, the magic faded. The team that once looked like a rising powerhouse now looks lost, not for lack of talent, but for lack of something deeper. Maybe it's belief. Maybe it's identity. Maybe it's just that the NFL doesn't reward almost. When Ross released that now infamous statement after the 2024 season, the one where he thanked everyone for their hard work but promised that status quo would not be acceptable, it sounded like a warning shot. He made it clear that McDaniel and GM Chris Grier would get another chance, but it came with a big, flashing asterisk. Continuity, he said, was valuable, but not if it meant accepting mediocrity. At the time, fans applauded the honesty. But fast forward to now, and it feels like that statement is coming back to haunt the franchise. Because when your owner publicly says that the current level of performance isn't good enough, and then you start the next season 1-5, what else is left to say? McDaniel knows that better than anyone. You can see it in his demeanor during press conferences, still calm, still thoughtful, but a little more defensive, a little more aware of the weight on his shoulders. He's not just coaching for wins anymore. He's coaching for his future. Every missed tackle, every blown coverage, every fourth-quarter collapse isn't just another mistake. It's another brick in the wall closing in around him. And for Ross, every loss is another headline, Another angry email from a season ticket holder, another banner flying over the stadium calling for change. It's a miserable cycle, one that feeds on itself until something breaks. But here's the thing, and this is what makes the situation so fascinating. Stephen Ross genuinely likes Mike McDaniel. That's not some PR spin, it's real. People close to the organization have said for years that Ross admires McDaniel's intelligence, his approachability, and his belief in building culture. The owner sees in McDaniel the kind of modern leader that fits today's NFL. He's not the old school, scream-in-your-face type. He's the new breed, collaborative, innovative, emotionally intelligent. But the NFL is still a results business. You can be the smartest guy in the room, but if the scoreboard doesn't reflect it, the clock eventually runs out. Right now, that clock is ticking loudly in Miami. The Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since the year 2000, when Dave Wannstedt was still pacing the sidelines. 2.5 decades of frustration, false hope, and rebuilds that never quite got over the hump. Fans are tired of hearing about the process. They want results. And with every loss, the patience that Ross has preached looks more and more like denial. The banners flying over Hard Rock Stadium with "Fire McDaniel and Greer" in bold letters aren't just angry stunts. They're a symptom of a fan base that feels like it's stuck in an endless loop of disappointment. McDaniel's defenders will point to the context, the injuries, the tough schedule, the close losses. And they're right, to an extent. The Dolphins have been competitive in almost every game. They've been in it until the final minutes. They're not getting blown out, they're just not finishing. But in the NFL, close doesn't count for much. You don't get extra credit for losing with style. You either win or you don't, and the standings don't care how dramatic the losses were. That's the brutal reality of this league, and it's one McDaniel is now learning the hard way. And yet, amid the noise and the speculation, there's still a sliver of hope. McDaniel's not the type to fold under pressure. He's built his career on resilience, on finding creative solutions when things look bleak. Maybe this is just another challenge for him to solve, another puzzle to crack. If he can find a way to get this team to rally, to turn those close losses into wins, the narrative could shift. Stranger things have happened in the NFL, but he's running out of time to prove it. The Dolphins' next game against the Cleveland Browns suddenly feels monumental, not just for the standings, but for the direction of the entire franchise. A win might buy McDaniel some breathing room. A loss might push things past the point of no return. And as much as he tries to downplay it, everyone knows what's at stake. Ross will be watching closely. The players will feel the tension. The fans will be ready with their signs and chants. It's not just another Sunday. It's a referendum on the future. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's hard not to feel a little sympathy for McDaniel. He walked into a franchise that's been chasing its identity for decades. He brought creativity, personality, and hope, things that had been missing for a long time. But hope can only carry you so far when the results don't follow. The NFL doesn't care about style points or clever play calling if it doesn't lead to victories. At some point, even the most promising vision starts to blur under the weight of expectation. So yes, expect more questions about those post-game conversations. Expect more speculation, more hot takes, more whispers about replacements and rebuilds. Until the Dolphins start winning again, that's the reality. For now, McDaniel's best move is exactly what he said it was. Focus on Cleveland. Focus on what can still be fixed. Because if he doesn't, the next conversation he has with Stephen Ross might not be about what went wrong in the final 5 minutes. It might be about what went wrong with the entire era. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? There's a storm brewing in Miami, and it's not the kind of storm you see on the weather forecast. No, this one is entirely human, all sweat, frustration, and raw emotion, and it's centered around one name that has fans and insiders buzzing: Jalen RAMSEY. Yeah, you heard that right. The usually composed, sometimes stoic midfielder found himself at the center of what sources are calling one of the most uncomfortable moments in Miami Dolphins locker room history. Picture this: a heated confrontation, voices raised, tensions boiling over in a room where teammates usually share camaraderie and laughter. But not today. Today, RAMSEY allegedly lost his temper in a way that left the entire team stunned, pointing fingers, whispering in corners, and quietly questioning whether things will ever be the same. The words reportedly flew fast and furious, cutting across the room like a lightning strike on a calm afternoon. The sources aren't clear on every word, but the gist is unmissable. RAMSEY called someone out, directly, without mincing words, and it happened right in front of everyone. Imagine the locker room atmosphere. Players who usually nod politely or laugh off criticism now frozen, exchanging glances, unsure whether to intervene or just let the storm pass. According to The Buzz, the outburst wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a confrontation so intense, so loaded with raw emotion, that it shook the very foundation of team morale. People are whispering about RAMSEY painting TUA in front of the whole team, creating a vibe that's reportedly insustainable, a word that seems almost custom-made for this kind of locker room nightmare. Now, whether you read that as a fiery reprimand, a burst of frustration, or something more personal, doesn't really matter. The fact is, the room was charged, and nobody left unaffected. Sources close to the locker room paint a picture of stunned silence immediately after the incident, the kind of silence that speaks louder than any cheer or clapping ever could. Players reportedly shuffled uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact, while coaches and staff exchanged worried glances, likely trying to gauge how to handle the fallout before it spilled into the media or social media frenzy. And, let's be honest, in the era of cameras in every pocket and instant viral posts, a moment like this could explode into something much bigger overnight. While Miami Dolphins fans have seen tempers flare before, this particular episode seems different, almost cinematic in its intensity. Rumors are swirling that RAMSEY didn't just confront TUA. He reportedly did it with a level of directness and public exposure that left the quarterback visibly unsettled. People are speculating whether this marks a breaking point or if it's simply a flash of intensity that will burn out quickly. There's chatter about whether this could affect team dynamics on the field, especially during high-pressure moments where trust and communication are key. In a team sport, especially at the professional level, moments like these can linger longer than anyone anticipates. Teammates reportedly discussed the incident in hushed tones after practice, some defending RAMSEY's passion, others questioning whether it was appropriate to confront a teammate in such a public, high-stakes setting. The locker room, usually a place of unity, reportedly felt fractured, a subtle tension that might ripple into upcoming games. And social media, naturally, is already picking up on every crumb of speculation. Fans are divided. As always, some laud RAMSEY for his fearless honesty and leadership, while others are concerned that this kind of public confrontation could backfire, creating rifts rather than building team cohesion. Analysts are already circling the story, breaking down body language from footage of practices, past interviews, and locker room appearances, searching for clues to what sparked the confrontation. Was it a disagreement over strategy, a clash of personalities, or just the culmination of underlying tensions that had been simmering for weeks? No one outside the team knows for sure, but insiders hint at a complex mix of competitiveness, ego, and pressure, all boiling over in one explosive moment. One source described the scene as like a pressure cooker finally letting off steam, with everyone caught in the crossfire, unsure whether to intervene, stay silent, or try to mediate. The speculation isn't just limited to internal dynamics either. There's already talk about how this could impact RAMSEY's public image, his relationship with TUA, and even the broader perception of the Dolphins' locker room culture. Will fans see it as a sign of fiery leadership or an alarming crack in the team's unity? Only time will tell. Some insiders are betting that this incident might actually forge a stronger connection in the long run, that RAMSEY's raw display of emotion could act as a wake-up call for teammates to address unspoken frustrations and push each other harder. Others, however, are warning that unresolved tension, especially one played out so publicly, can fester into something that undermines trust and performance, creating a lingering cloud over practices, meetings, and ultimately, games. The timing of the incident also adds to the drama. Right in the middle of a crucial stretch of the season, when focus, strategy, and mental fortitude are paramount. Coaches reportedly had to step in, diffuse the immediate heat, and ensure that professionalism remained intact. Sources suggest that team leaders held private meetings afterward, trying to strike a balance between accountability and maintaining morale, though the atmosphere reportedly remained tense for days. Beyond the locker room, The ripple effects of such moments are felt in the stadium, in fan chatter, in media coverage, and in the psychological game between players. Opponents might smell vulnerability, or perhaps they'll be wary of a team that has such internal firepower. The incident is, in many ways, a microcosm of professional sports itself. Intense emotions, high stakes, and personalities colliding in ways that are as unpredictable as they are compelling. One cannot ignore the cultural impact of such events either, as fans dissect every nuance, every expression, every alleged word exchanged. Forums, comment sections, and social media feeds are ablaze with speculation, debate, and hot takes. Is RAMSEY a fearless leader, a hothead, or simply a human being showing frustration in a high-pressure environment? The debate is fierce, and it's only growing. Rumors continue to swirl about subsequent locker room dynamics, about whether TUA has addressed the confrontation directly, and whether other players have stepped up to mediate or perhaps even exacerbate the tension. Insiders hint at subtle changes in behavior, subtle avoidance, and subtle reassessments of alliances within the team. The heat in Miami is palpable, and if it wasn't already, this incident has turned the Dolphins' locker room into a story in itself, one that fans, analysts, and rival teams can't stop talking about. And let's be clear, the fallout isn't likely to be a one-day story. Moments like these have a life of their own, feeding into narratives of team culture, leadership, and performance pressure. Whether it becomes a turning point for RAMSEY, a lesson in diplomacy, or a lingering shadow over the Dolphins' season remains uncertain. But for now, the rumor mill is running wild. Voices are whispering in corners, and everyone connected to the team is watching, waiting, and wondering what comes next. One thing is undeniable. Jalen Ramsey's alleged confrontation with TUA in front of the entire team has created a scenario that's equal parts drama, tension, and spectacle, the kind of moment that keeps fans on edge, analysts busy, and social media scrolling endlessly. And in Miami, a city known for its heat, sun, and storms, it seems the real storm is happening inside the locker room, a storm fueled by human emotion, pride, and the ever-present pressure to succeed. Whether it will settle peacefully, erupt again, or transform into something entirely unexpected is anyone's guess. But one thing is clear. The Miami Dolphins are no longer just a team on the field. They're a team at the center of a locker room saga that might define not only their season, but the stories fans will tell for years to come. And for the casual observer, the diehard fan, or the analyst hungry for drama, this is the kind of story that reminds us why we love sports in the first place. Passion, unpredictability, and the raw, unfiltered humanity of the people behind the helmets. So keep your eyes on Miami because, if the rumors are true, what happened with RAMSEY and TUA is only the beginning. The heat is on, tensions are high, and every practice, every game, every locker room interaction now carries an electric charge that nobody can ignore. And whether this incident ends in reconciliation, escalation, or something in between, one thing is guaranteed. The Dolphins' locker room will never feel quite the same again. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.